Intersessions. When COVID-19 happened, intersessions happened between the new calendars. Now, CCISD wants to hear from you. Well, I'm going to give it to them in a minute. But it's CCISD parents that want their input on a calendar schedule for future references. How is it going to help CCISD as the kids are out of school this week? Here's Bill Churchwell.
If you want to know just how kids feel about being out on intersessions,
Yes.
Zoe Rogers gave us a pretty strong opinion.
We get to go to places and we take breaks from school for once.
We found her alongside her dad, Ben, spending the afternoon here at the Museum of Science and History.
It's nice that they get the break. It's nice that we can kind of explore different opportunities around town, whereas normally we're on such a tight schedule.
The museum, usually closed on Mondays, adjusted its days this week to accommodate parents whose kids are on intersession, with additional activities focused on space. It's where we also found local dad Corey McCain with his daughter Olive.
So suddenly someone was like, hey, they're off all next week. I was like, oh my gosh.
He admitted he was caught off guard. Still, he wouldn't change it.
To tell you the truth, I remember when I was in school, I always wanted a break from school, so having an extra break is great. Being an adult now with a job, it's a very different story.
That's the beauty of having a flexible calendar like that.
School board trustee Jane Bells says the switch to include an intersession became quite popular a few years back.
A lot of the parents like this break because the resorts they're trying to go to, like Disney World, they're not as crowded and might not be as expensive.
An opportunity made possible by being a district of innovation.
And it really came into play a lot during the COVID years when the state was giving us flexibility. And we saw at that time how important it was for us to have.
Now school leaders are planning out the next round of calendars to help families plan as well. The two options currently on the table. One includes a week-long intersession. The second option doesn't, meaning a later start to the school year and an earlier end to it.
And so that is where we really need the parent information, and we need also the teachers' input too, to kind of figure out where are we going to put the intersessions, how long do you want to make Christmas break, things like that are really important.
Here's my input about this. Listen, there's 180 days of school. If you take a week out, so you have 180 minus 5 days, that's 175 days lost of school. And hey, listen, I know kids need a break from education. Education is very important for your child. Now look, I hope Follow Up does not put intersession into play, but if they do, this is a whole different show. You know, march down the board saying, hey, but this is CCISD, they can do whatever they want. But the school calendar, everyone wants their input and say, well, this, that, and the third. And it's like, well, we understand what's going on with these kids nowadays because that's all they want to do is just sit there and say, well, I want to spend time with my child. And that's good. You want to spend time with your child? There's no problem with that. There's no problem with you wanting to spend time with your children. There's absolutely no problem to it. But what it comes down to is, this is what it comes down to. What it comes down to is the questions. Okay. Because really, if you don't go to school for 180 days, you won't get your diploma. You won't get a good time job. And because of intersession, look, we want flexible hours. When we want a job, we want flexible hours, right? Well, okay, if we want flexible hours for our schedule, then it's up to us to choose our schedule. But there are things that, you gotta understand from everyone else's perspective. Listen, I'm not an expert in education, but I do believe that, we can put education first. If you believe me, education comes first before, your job. Unless it's a school-made program. But the pros and cons of this would be, the good thing is kids will get a break, but the bad thing is, everyone would lose a school day. It'd be like a little mini spring break. In the case of Flower Bluff, it's about to be the end of a 5-day break, like a little mini spring break. But we're not going to get into that. I want to throw them on the bus and say, well, this is in the third. So what do you think about incision? Give us some feedback. We'll post that on the community page, and I want to hear your input about this. Should incision happen Should intercessions happen in our schools? I'm going to give you a poll and I want you to vote. We'll have your results on our next broadcast. And believe me, this is a topic that won't go away until someone sits down and says, hey, we don't need this. We don't need flexible. We want 180 days, and that's that. Still ahead, Melissa Etheridge, who almost 20 years ago became a survivor of breast cancer. As we start breast cancer awareness, as we continue Breast Cancer Awareness Month, Melissa Etheridge is coming up. Also, could you be raising a serial killer? Dr. Phil has some answers. Stay with us. Okay, imagine after homecoming game, you want to go all celebrating and all going all partying and all that stuff. And then you make a huge mess. And you expect us to clean up your messes. Well, in Kingsville, it happened. Just almost a week ago in Kingsville, there was a homecoming celebration. Everybody was partying and fucking around, drinking, and all of a sudden everyone wants to make a fucking mess. Everybody had it cleaned up, except for the ones that threw that party. Here's Michaela Chavez.
For the most part, it's really quiet here.
A quiet neighborhood.
I didn't know that they were still into doing that.
It's uncalled for. It's disrespectful. Why would they want to do something like that?
Had some visitors scrambling through the streets last Friday.
I think that it was probably some of the children targeting her children. Maybe they were playing around, or I don't think it was that. I don't think it was something too malicious or too harmful. It could have just been a childish prank.
A neighbor here had her dream car egged, but she wasn't the target. It was her high school son.
I'm always on the lookout for the neighbors, and he says, it's none of your business. I says, it's my neighborhood. I have to be involved.
Petra Garza is their neighbor.
Those kids are the greatest kids in the neighborhood. They called me grandma. We became family.
Garza says harmless pranks among friends are okay, but she says this was anything but.
But egg, no. They got a new car and that hurts the paint. They might have to get a paint job. It's going to cost hundreds of dollars.
Officer Daniel Gonzalez with the Kingsville Police Department says these pranks,
homecoming, class wars,
are usually seen around homecoming week.
This has been going on for as long as I can possibly remember. Toilet papering, egging, paintballs even.
And although it might seem like an innocent joke, the consequences aren't.
And if they're caught, they can actually face criminal charges of criminal mischief. And depending on the severity, depending on the damages and the amounts of the damages, that could actually go up to a felony charge.
Officer Daniel Gonzalez says many incidents like this go unreported. He says for victims debating whether or not to report something like this, you should consider how much damage was caused. With your neighborhood news in Kingsville, I'm Michaela Chavez, Chris 6 News.
For you Kingsville people out there that want to pull those pranks, y'all know who you are. Look, I get y'all want to have some fun, prank pranks, prank wars, homecoming wars. I get it. This is not senior pranks. This is not all prank wars, I get it, I may not have pulled pranks before. I never pulled pranks, but if I pulled some pranks, you know, it'd be like a whole different story. And this whole different story would turn out to be, I don't know, turn out to be a whole different. I wouldn't even know when. But I'll tell you, here's what I think. Don't ever pull these pranks. I mean, not only can it lead to, you know, people getting hurt and property being destroyed, it can also lead to people being charged for vandalism. Yeah, that big word. Vandalism. A four-syllable word meaning destruction of property or personal property. That is something I have no tolerance for on this broadcast. I hate vandalism. There's just no excuse. No tolerances for it. You break school property, the district can decide to press charges. You go toilet paper somebody's house, you throw paintballs, you spray paint somebody's house. That is not only vandalism, that is also graffiti. That is also against the law, and it can lead you in jail. Now, were you a student, they would have contacted the school and let them know what's going on, and then all of a sudden, they'd be pressing charges. And not just that, you might be charged as an adult and sent off to juvie, to the juvenile detention center in your county. What can you do to make sure it doesn't happen again? First off, know the damage costs, and make sure you have your security system on, cameras and all. If your camera has motion detection and night vision, get some cameras that have night vision. If it's during the night, you can see what happened. And make sure you get that evidence for your police department. That way you have proof. And film all around your house like it's MTV Cribs. Important lessons for you to learn. Next homecoming year, don't be throwing any more pranks. This is not the prank wars. These prank wars can in fact land you in jail, even if you decide to do those prank wars. Well, this month's Breast Cancer Awareness Month, and like I promised you, we're going to introduce you to a woman who's a famous singer who was diagnosed with breast cancer almost 20 years ago. At 20 years ago. Her name is Melissa Etheridge, and Stone Phillips has her story when we return. Stay with us. 20 years ago, Melissa Etheridge, famous singer and songwriter, now became known as Melissa Etheridge, Survivor. That was her first performance since she was diagnosed with breast cancer 20 years ago. Fall 2004. Tonight, for the very first time, you'll get to hear her side as she tells her story, all about when she was diagnosed with breast cancer. And later on, you're going to hear about her decision to do controversial chemotherapy with a controversial drug in hand. But this was more than just an act of singing and music. It was an act of courage. Here's Stone Phillips with this exclusive interview.
I didn't think, I'm going to be brave and go do it. I thought, am I going to? Well enough? Okay, I think I'll have enough energy. Yeah, I can do that right. Maybe that's courageous. I don't know, but it was just, it's what I love to do.
Something you had to do.
I had to. I couldn't have sat here and watched someone else sing Janis Joplin, Piece of My Heart. That had killed me. Oh, I'm gonna show you, baby. Woman can tell.
This was before cancer, before chemo, before this song became a new anthem for breast cancer survivors everywhere. class by the impact it had? How it moved people?
Yes, I'm definitely taken aback. And I remember when I finally made the choice, I'm going to do it bald, and you know what? Maybe this will help somebody who's sitting on chemo, laying in bed and going, God, I'm bald, isn't this weird? Maybe it'll help them feel a little better. I didn't know to what extent that would happen, but I'm honored.
That song in particular, I mean, cancer is a heartbreaker itself.
Yeah.
And it tests people, it pushes people to the edge. How sorely tested have you been?
It was very hard. It was the hardest thing I've ever done in my life. Chemotherapy tests your sanity, yet there is an amazing clarity to it that I'm grateful for.
Pretty much cuts through everything.
Oh, you get a real clear sense of good and bad, your own right and wrong.
And what's important.
And what's important and what is real.
Keeping it real is what Melissa Etheridge is all about. A Plains girl from Leavenworth, Kansas, she's been more than a rock star since she very publicly came out as a lesbian in 1993, never hesitating to walk her talk. She got her first guitar at age 8 and grew up listening to the Beatles and the blues, to Bruce, and of course, Janis Joplin. Years later, she would become famous for her own spirited live performances, that raspy rock voice, and her soulful lyrics, whether she's singing about love, loss, or her own sexuality. Her songs tell her truth. And the truth is, lately, Etheridge had been really happy. After a painful split from a longtime partner 5 years ago, she had found love again with actress Tammy Lynn Michaels. You can hear it in her newest music.
You find there's no question in the silence.
She was singing those songs on the Canadian leg of her latest concert tour last October, feeling full of life, when at age 43, she found a lump in her left breast.
It was rather large, and I didn't know why I hadn't noticed it the day before, but it was just this day that it was right here and very noticeable, and I touched it, and there's something in your soul, you're like, this is different.
So you could feel it, could you see it? You
Yes,
could see the lump?
yes, you could see it. And it was alarming because I hadn't seen it the day before, and I didn't quite understand what it was.
So this came up very, very suddenly.
Very suddenly. I had just had a physical 2 months before with a breast exam.
Having lost an aunt and a grandmother to breast cancer and her father to liver cancer, Etheridge had been vigilant about checkups and self-exams. Now she knew she needed to get off the road and to a doctor. So after one more performance in Ottawa, she flew home to Los Angeles.
Immediately drew Tammy into the bathroom and said, look at this. And she was just, it was astonishing how large it was.
Over the next couple of days, it had gotten even bigger.
Yes. And my children could see it.
Etheridge has a son and daughter from a previous relationship. Their biological father, fellow rock legend David Crosby.
Tammy and I talked about it, and we decided, because they're 8 and 6, to say, we need to see if it has a cold. Because if this lump has a cold, it might spread to the rest of the body. And so we need to take it out if it does. And so I got the biopsy, which is no pleasant thing either. And then the next day I was actually able to get the diagnosis of, yes, it is breast cancer.
So instead of staying on tour and going back on stage, you went into the operating room.
Yes, which is another interesting aspect of breast cancer is they can't tell you exactly what's going on until they open you up. So they found my tumor. It was a 4-centimeter tumor, to stage 2. Very grateful. And it did go into one lymph node, into the sentinel node. They took out, that was positive. So they moved on and took out 14 other lymph nodes, which were negative. Which means that, yes, I had a tumor. It got on the on-ramp, but not to the rest of the superhighway of lymph nodes, which is how cancer travels lymph nodes and bloodstream.
And following the surgery, chemotherapy.
Yes. It's the closest to death I have ever been. The chemotherapy takes you as far down into hell as you've ever been. Yeah. And I could look at this window right here and just watch it.
The chemo took a heavy toll. There were days she could barely get out of bed. She says she would never have made it through without Tammy, the woman she has called her wife since they exchanged vows in a commitment ceremony in September 2003.
When I got home from my surgery, and I walked in, in the bedroom, there was a beautiful flower arrangement, and all it said was, in sickness and in health. You know, and she meant it. She would sit there were days upon days where I couldn't make a sound, where she would tell me she loved me, and I couldn't even tell her that back. And she would say, I know you love me, and I love you, and she would just lay there, because you can't move. Every cell in your body is aching.
From the chemotherapy.
From the chemotherapy, yeah. Yeah.
We asked Tammy to join us for a portion of the interview, and it quickly became clear that some of Melissa's best medicine comes from her 30-year-old partner.
This one has a gift of humor and comedy. When I was diagnosed with cancer, she'd say, well, hello, Cancer Pants, and we would just, and as we, shaving my head was another opportunity.
Great comedic opportunities there, right?
Look, we had to give a lesson as we shaped it into different mullets. We had to teach the children what not to have with their hair.
Yes.
And mohawk.
And for my son, I put a new mohawk for a while, and actually using humor to bring them through the process of mamas. The mama that you know with her golden mane is going to lose her hair. You know, when I finally did lose my hair and she shaved it and I had a couple of hairs here, what'd you call me?
Captain Steuben.
Yeah.
Remember from the Love Boat where he just had a couple right there on the side that it was just shiny? So she was Captain Steuben for a while.
Laughing is a medicine. It releases this amazing stuff, and she would make me laugh and just bring this incredible gift to me every single day.
Those moments of laughter were a lifeline during her treatment. Etheridge was scheduled to undergo 8 rounds of what's called dose-dense chemotherapy, a shorter course of treatment that can be highly successful, but painfully intense. What do you remember most about the chemotherapy?
When it first goes in your body, it makes your eyes get all glassy, and I couldn't really see in her anymore. So by the time we would get her home from chemo, the stare side's pretty deep for a minute. By the time we got her home from chemo, her eyes would be very foggy. And I would look at that, and I would know very soon on she's going down again.
By January, Etheridge had completed her first 4 rounds of chemo and was started on the next drug, Taxol. But immediately, there was a problem.
It affected my muscles and bones, and there's a chance of neuropathy with Taxol, which is where you lose feeling in your extremities, in your fingers and toes. And the minute I started losing feeling in my fingertips, I threw a flag and went, wait, this is my livelihood you're talking about.
Guitar player.
Yeah, the guitar player, this is, wait.
After consulting with her doctors, she decided that between her surgery, 2 months of chemo, and radiation treatment, which she's currently undergoing, she could beat the cancer without the Taxol.
I said that, and that was my own personal choice to me, is not worth it. So I stopped early.
And that choice created an opportunity, because once she stopped chemotherapy, she started to get her strength back, and the Grammy Awards were just around the corner. Even though she'd been nominated for her song Breathe, she hadn't planned on attending the Grammys. But as she began to feel better, she thought maybe she'd go after all.
But I didn't want to just go and just go. I thought, I'd like to go if there's something special. Well, my manager then calls me and says, I think I got something special. And he said that the Grammys called and they're giving Janis Joplin the Lifetime Achievement Award, and they would like you to sing Piece of My Heart. And I went, holy cow. Well, yeah, that's special. And I make you feel like you.
always been close to her heart, as we found out, sitting in her backyard, rocking with her favorite guitar.
It's a pretty simple thing, but man, it starts to get real deep real fast.
And there's nothing like you really do. I had such a good time on the Grammy.
How she did it in front of millions of people on music's biggest night, when we come back.
We'll be right back right after this commercial.
When we come back, more Melissa's interview with Stone Phillips, as you get to hear more about her side of her story about the Grammys, and more about the decision to undergo a controversial drug to help her get through chemotherapy. Why did she do it? And why did she decide to perform at the Grammys during the time of chemotherapy? A lot of questions have to be answered. Please stay with us. Returning to our story, with hair or without, Melissa Etheridge described chemotherapy as a hell on earth. But this was during that controversial chemotherapy. Now, for the very first time, you get to hear more about that chemotherapy and the time she was at the Grammys. And her decision to decide with hair or without hair. Which would she choose? Once again, Stone Phillips.
It was very special that I had been presented with a day that I could come back into this entertainment world and show everyone that you are back and okay, and thought, okay, I'm going to do this. I'm just going to walk in. I'm not going to be afraid of the truth. The truth is, yes, I had cancer. Yes, I got it out of me. Yes, I went through chemotherapy. Yes, I'm bald.
In an image-crazed business, it was a big decision.
I remember telling the camera crew, saying, okay, I'm going to do this bald, so if you need any special lighting for this big old shiny head that's going to be shining, I need you to know. And they were like, okay, and they were all ready for it.
Did you ever consider wearing a wig?
I never considered wearing a wig. I couldn't imagine putting a wig on, and I couldn't imagine a wig staying on my head as I was flying around on stage. It's comfortable. I was going to go on stage and sing a rock song. I'm going to sweat. It's comfortable.
I see another CD cover right here.
Oh, bring it on. I don't know, it's growing now. It's starting to grow back, so every day I have a little bit more. In a couple weeks, I'm going to have your hair.
Hey.
Hey, okay.
Well, it's nice and cool. Very cool. It wasn't a choice.
Arriving at the Grammys with Tammy at her side, Melissa wasn't sure how people would react. Nobody had seen you.
No one could.
No,
nothing. And I sat down, and there was just sort of this wonderful, warm applause, and I was, and I thought for a minute I was going to lose it, thinking, oh, what am I doing? This is really intense.
But the jitters were gone as fellow singer Joss Stone called her to the stage.
I knew my own love of performing. I knew that my own adrenaline could absolutely carry me through for 2.5 minutes. I knew I could do it, and I wanted to do it.
And those lyrics, I mean, that song, talking about showing everybody, baby, that a woman can be tough.
I didn't even think about that until I was performing it, and I
Are you
didn't.
kidding? Really?
Well, I've gone back and looked at the because I TiVoed it. I looked at the part where I sing, and a woman can be tough, and I rolled my eyes, and I remember singing it, going, "Oh yeah, I guess that has a little double meaning here."
The audience was blown away. Her voice sure, her look stunning.
I thought you looked just beautiful. How did you feel you looked?
There's a real, I don't know if it's called beauty. It's hard for me to step into that word, but there's a radiance. There's something
During the performance, how did you feel? Were you tired? Were you concerned that your energy was going to fade?
Because I was moving and singing in such a hard song that by the second verse, I got tired. I was like, uh-oh. I thought, wow.
You get the big scream coming.
And I've got the big scream coming. The scream was so cathartic. It was the relief.
That primal.
Of leaving. I mean, rock and roll is cathartic anyway, full on. But to be able to throw my head back and scream the last 6 months out of me, I'm completely grateful for that. You know you got it! What?
In a way, Etheridge says, her battle with cancer has been a gift.
I have never known such love and good energy that is coming to me every day, every moment.
That's the gift.
A wonderful gift. I've changed my lifestyle. I have taken every, what I consider poisonous thing out of my life, out of my food, out of my work, out of my social circle, out of everything. Because I want a clean, cancer-free life, and I believe I can have that.
Even as a rock star.
Even as a rock star. I know, it's a funny profession, but even as a rock star.
Are you cancer-free today?
Yes. Yes, I am. In every detectable way and in every knowing way. In my heart and my mind, I know that that cancer does not exist in me today.
Well, here's to healing, and here's to the healing power of rock and roll.
Oh, yes, that's for sure. You know you got it. It makes you feel good.
Her latest CD is called Lucky Live, and that's exactly how Melissa Etheridge is feeling these days as a breast cancer survivor. Lucky to be alive.
And she's lucky. But what about the year after? Coming up, Melissa Etheridge continues the interview continues with the decision about the controversial therapy drug and a new song to go with it. You might not hear because of copyright, because this video is going to be edited, but Stone Phillips will continue. Stay with us. If you had to face illness and fear and conquer them both, then you and Melissa Etheridge would have something in common. You and this special someone would have someone in common. Her name is Melissa Etheridge, who years ago who over 10 years ago survived breast cancer. Tonight we're going to show you more of that interview, including the decision to use a controversial drug to help her get through chemotherapy, especially raising money, going on runs for all those researchers. And now, for the very first time in primetime, it might happen. You'll get to hear this song, which is one of my favorites, dedicated to the cause. Here again is Stone Phillips.
I run for hope, I run to feel, I run for the truth, for all that is real. I run for your mother, your sister, your wife. I run for you and me, my friend. I run for life.
If anyone can turn a bout with breast cancer and all the fear and despair it brings into an anthem of hope, it's Melissa Etheridge, cancer-free and feeling stronger than ever.
And they cut into my skin, and they cut into my body, but they will never get a piece of my soul.
The day you're diagnosed with cancer is not one to celebrate. But it's been a year. Is this a happy anniversary?
Happy? Yeah, happy time to look back and go, whoo, look at this year. What a year. My goodness, we can get through anything.
The hair's back.
How about that?
A little longer than mine.
Yeah.
Now make you feel like you were all.
Last February, she took the stage at the Grammy Awards without any of her trademark blonde hair and blew the crowd away. Her performance was another coming out, the rock star and gay icon, showing the world that she was also a cancer survivor. She had just completed 10 agonizing weeks of chemotherapy and was still getting radiation treatment. Yet somehow she summoned the strength to smile and scream.
No, you got it! What?
I had such a good time on the Grammys.
3 days after that showstopper at her home in Los Angeles, Melissa spoke for the first time about the tumor she discovered in the shower last fall and the treatment that followed.
It's the closest to death I have ever been. The chemotherapy takes you as far down into hell as you've ever been.
She said she couldn't have gotten through it without the woman she calls her wife, actress Tammy Lynn Michaels.
This one has a gift of humor and comedy. When I was diagnosed with cancer, she'd say, "Well, hello, Cancer Pants." And when I finally did lose my hair and she shaved it and I had a couple of hairs here, what'd you call me, honey?
Captain Stupid.
Yeah.
Remember from the Love Boat where you just had a couple right here on the side and it was just shiny?
But as they told us back then, there were times during chemotherapy when laughter could not lessen the pain.
When it first goes in your body, it makes your eyes get all glassy, and I couldn't really see in her anymore. So by the time we would get her home from chemo, I would look at that and I would know very soon on she's going down again.
There were days upon days where I couldn't make a sound, where she would tell me she loved me, and I couldn't even tell her that back.
She may not have been able to make a sound, but she wrote a song called This Is Not Goodbye. And sitting down with Melissa again 8 months later, she played it for us.
Bravely let go of my hand. I can't speak and yet you understand. Where I go now, I go alone. This path I walk, these days of stone. The angels are calling. I must go away. Wait for me here, silently stay. The song that came to me while I was on chemo, I was thinking, wow, it's like every time I'm just getting better and I start to come up, I know that in 2 days, I'm going to get that stuff put back into me and I'm going to go away. And this is hard, even though I'm in the same room with my loved one. I can't talk to her. I can't move. She can't touch me. It hurts to touch me. And it's really, really hard. So I wanted to write a song about it. You know, I know it's hard for you, but I'll be back. This is not goodbye. I'm not checking out here at all. This is not goodbye.
No primal screams. But how good does it feel to be singing a song knowing that you're nowhere close to goodbye?
Real good. That's our bedroom right there.
She was one of some 200,000 American women diagnosed with breast cancer last year. And like so many others, she knows the cancer could return. So for at least 5 years, she'll be taking a daily dose of the anti-cancer drug tamoxifen. She's changed her diet, eating less junk food, and doing her best to cut down on something else. Melissa believes a history of cancer in her family isn't the only explanation for why she got sick.
I think I've been on a path ever since I was born, a path of high stress. I put my career was a big old juicy carrot right in front of me for all of my life. I started playing in bars when I was 11, and I never stopped until I was 43 years old, and diagnosed with breast cancer was the first time I canceled everything and laid in my room for weeks.
It took cancer for Melissa to stop putting career and a lifetime of pleasing others ahead of her own well-being.
Cancer's like the ultimate excuse. Who's going to say, oh no, you have to show up for this one? Hey, I got cancer. I can't be there. It's the ultimate eraser.
So the diagnosis instantly vented all that stress.
Oh yeah, instantly. I mean, it's like you just blow up. It's the most stressful thing ever. Oh my God. And all those fears that you have. That, oh my gosh, what if something horrible ever happened to me? Well, something horrible happened to me, and you know what? My life became very simple, and it cleared up, and I had a completely blank slate, and I can build it now the way I want to. I'm Melissa Etheridge. I'm 44 years old, and I'm a breast cancer survivor.
In the life she's building now, Melissa is making time to speak out and to raise money for the fight against breast cancer. But there's one part of her story she has never talked about publicly, until now. A controversial choice she made to help with the harsh side effects of chemo.
I decided instead of signing up for the drugs, there's the drug that you take for the pain, but that constipates you, so you have to take the constipation drug, but then that actually gives you diarrhea, so you need a little diarrhea drug. Instead of taking 5 or 6 of the prescriptions, I decided to go a natural route and smoke marijuana.
Medicinal marijuana.
Medicinal marijuana, absolutely. Every doctor I talked to that I asked about it, any complications in it, they said that's the best thing to do. The doctors know.
You spoke to your doctors about using marijuana?
Every single one of them. From the surgeons to the oncologists to the radiation, every single one was, oh yeah, that's the best help for the effects of chemotherapy.
While the medical community remains divided, California is one of 10 states that allows seriously ill people to use marijuana with a doctor's recommendation. But federal law prohibits the drug under any circumstances. So Melissa's doctors did not actually write a prescription, and Melissa used it despite the risk of federal prosecution.
If they really wanted to come get me, really? I mean, there's so much more going on, and I didn't worry, but it was worth it.
Smoking the marijuana proved too harsh, so early on, she switched to a vaporizer to inhale it. She says it eased her pain, restored her appetite, and lifted her depression.
How often were you using it?
Oh, every day.
Every day?
Yes. I was doing a lot of it at the time for my pain and for my symptoms. And the minute I didn't feel it, I stopped.
As a rock star, your position on this does not come as a complete surprise.
No, I know.
Do you worry at all that talking about this from a medicinal standpoint might encourage recreational use? that what somebody hears is, this takes away pain, this brings comfort.
Do I worry that will be abused? Yeah, I mean, Vicodin's abused. Everything that brings pain relief is abused. But does that mean because Vicodin is abused, do they keep it away from people? No, they prescribe it. Put the laws on it, prescribe it.
Have you thought about being more vocal in the medicinal marijuana movement?
Well, I guess I am now. Yes.
Melissa has always followed her truth, no matter where it takes her, and often it's the road less traveled. In fact, that's the title of her latest album, released this month. It's a nod to the Robert Frost poem about diverging roads and the choices that define us.
So for you, the 2 roads that diverged were what?
I think that starts in high school. I saw 2 roads. I could stay in Kansas. I could take the road that people in my hometown would take. You go to college, you get a husband, you get married. That was one road. Or I'm going to go to LA. I'm going to go for the craziness. And I took that road. Okay, I met lots of gay people in Hollywood. We were all very, very quiet about it in Hollywood. We didn't say anything. But you know what? I don't want to take that road. I want to be myself. I took that road. Wow. Uh-oh, I got breast cancer. You know what? I could shrink away and tell everybody to leave me alone and just not say anything about it. Say I'm just taking a vacation and go through this myself. Or you know what? I could be open about this and I could let it change my life, change me for the better. I'm gonna take this road.
This past summer, Melissa traveled a lot of roads in an RV. It was a coast-to-coast tour of America, a special treat for her 2 children and for Tammy, who'd kept her vow to be there for Melissa in sickness and in health.
So let me get this straight. Was 6 weeks in an RV across country with the kids her way of thanking you for all your love and support?
Yes, that was my dream. It was my dream. After she was done, she said, "Well, let's go on vacation. Where do you want to go? Anywhere, anything. Let's go." I said, "Baby, get me one of them big old RVs, baby. You get me out of here. You get me out of this town." And we took off.
We're from the Midwest, and a good RV trip is the goal in your life.
They visited their hometowns. Melissa's in Kansas and Tammy's in Indiana. They spent a day at Dollywood in the Smoky Mountains and drove all the way to the Big Apple.
It was great to feel in control of having been so out of control of my body, of my life. Being in control, driving, being in charge of taking care of what's the next meal, where are we going, where are we staying, getting people there safe.
So in your case, RV sort of stands for recovery vehicle.
Yes, very much so.
While on the road, Melissa wrote that anthem of hope for cancer patients and their families. Her message of fierce optimism delivered the best way she knows how, by singing straight from the gut.
Music remains the mission.
Oh yeah, music and living.
I run for hope, I run to feel, I run for the truth, for all that is real. I run for your love and your sister away. I run for you and me, my friend. I run for
Thank you. That's sure. Thank you very much.
We're gonna take a break. No. Okay. I saw this story years ago, man. This is before I even thought about doing something like this, you know. You know, my family's not diagnosed with breast cancer, right? If I did, I'd be one of the. If I did, it'd be a whole different story. But either way, you know. You look at things from different perspectives, and all of a sudden you think, okay, what do I do? Do this, that, and third, and all of a sudden, you got to look at things from an angle. Like, okay, do I take medicinal marijuana, or do I take a controversial drug and make me shit and piss? It's all how you look at it. You might see more than the life. You might see more than the side that you're seeing. Turn it upside down and shake it up a bit. It could be a good thing. It's all how you look at it. It's all how you look at it from every angle and every perspective that you look at. So, whatever you choose, that can get you to a breast cancer survivor. And all the breast cancer survivors out there, not just in this community, but all throughout Texas, I'm praying for y'all out there. I'm praying for you. As a matter of fact, I have one good friend of mine who was actually a breast cancer survivor. I'm not naming names, but you know who you are. I'm proud of you. I've known you for months, and I can tell you, I'm proud of you. Straight from the heart. We're going to take a break, and we'll be right back. No running, Chase Daddy. No sugar. Have a cookie. Car seats. Come up here and sit with Dad. You think this would be the best dad of the year? Well, Matt Nimmersberg thinks so. He was our Not to Feel Back 2005 part of Family First. where we're gonna be this is something where, like I said at the top of the game, something we're gonna be doing this season is we're gonna be putting the focus on family first. To disciplinary actions, we're gonna show you some ways to get your family back together, bring peace to your family and harmony to your family, and even then give you some disciplinary tools that can even help you out here. And that's the case with the first issue here, you know. Parent versus parent, mom versus dad. I mean, one parenting technique against another. Like, who do you trust? Well, we'll take a look at this.
Take a look.
I'm a rough house. Let's tear around the house and chase dad, or play hide and seek, or do something like that. Where she's like, "Let's sit down and color. Let's sit down and read a book."
Good job, Maddie. The girls and I do have a routine during the day that we follow, and when he's home, the routine is out the window. Daddy's home.
It's definitely party when Dad's home, because I get to see him less than she does, and I want to make it fun for the girls when I am home.
By letting them stand and jump on the furniture, what's that teaching them? They shouldn't be allowed to use our furniture as a jungle gym.
No. Rough housing is just something that I think dads like to do.
Done. No. What happened to the bad guy?
Well, mommy's home. Fun's over.
It kind of makes me feel bad because they see him as the fun parent, not me. You gave him brownies for supper?
I do indulge them more with sweets and snacks and things like that when Amy's not around, because then I don't have to hear about it.
I think the inconsistencies that Matt and I have with each other's decisions really do impact the girls. We've seen the youngest one has many, many tantrums. The older one has had some issues with lying or fibbing.
Being in the Navy, I want to make a big impression on my kids. If I ever do have to go away, when I come back, they know who I am, and they remember me.
You have to kiss me. Give me small pieces.
I think that if Matt and I don't figure out how to compromise a little bit more when the girls are older, we're not going to be able to agree on what their curfew should be, what they can and cannot wear out of our house. It's just bound to get worse.
Dr. Phil, how can I get my wife to lighten up and just let the girls have fun with old dad?
Okay. The exit's right over there. First off, do you believe that there is an impact when you say, even jokingly, "Oh, fun's over, mom's home," or some of the other things that you kind of go through that you allow them to disobey her rules when she's not home, right? Amy says no running, you say chase daddy.
Right.
Amy says no sugar, you said have a cookie, right? She says car seats, you say, "Oh, come up here and sit with dad."
Say, oh.
What do you drive?
Well, it's the Pimp Daddy Mobile. It's the 1993 Ford Taurus. It's purple.
It's purple?
Right.
Okay, 93 purple Ford Taurus. It's on the base. When you see him, check to see if the kids are in the back. Okay? All right, just wanted that one. I agree with you.
Okay,
There is no airbag. She's always got her seatbelt on. Is that bad? Is that better?
Would you like a shovel? You couldn't dig yourself in a hole any faster if you had a backhoe. All right. Do you think there is an impact on the kids of you excluding Matt from the rule setting, fighting in front of them whenever the rules are violated, and getting onto him like he's one of them while they're there?
Yes.
And what would that impact be?
I think it confuses them. I mean, if they see a discrepancy between us, they can just deepen that wedge. They know who to go to. If they want something and I say no, they know to go to him.
All right, so you both agree that you have established a divide and conquer mentality, that you're both creating confusion with the kids, and it's creating conflict between the two of y'all.
One thing, we never fight in front of the kids. I mean, I can count on one hand how many times we've actually, butted heads, like, seriously.
Yeah, they're not drop down. They're not drag out fights or anything like that. They're confrontations.
I didn't figure it was kung fu, but there are disagreements here. All right, look, we're going to take a break.
There is disagreements out there, and you may not believe. You may not believe what I had to say about the Pimp Daddy Mobile. Come nigga ride the Pimp Daddy Mobile. Come sit with Daddy while Mommy's out. Here's what I gotta say about this one. I got nothing. Shit, I got nothing. I got nothing. Let's hear more from Matt. We're gonna take another break.
Don't come in at the end of the day in the house. Amy says she's sick and tired of him disobeying her rules. Did I read that right?
That sounds terrible.
Yeah. But that's kind of what it is, right? You run the house. You say this, I'm running this house. I'm here all day. You're gone. Don't come in at the end of the day and upset everything that we've got going.
Right.
Look, two wrongs don't make a right here. I don't know, except for the car seat thing. You need to put them in the car seat because, boy, they're missiles.
That's right.
You hit even 5 miles an hour, rear end somebody, those little heads, they're missiles. So you've got to put them in the car seat. So that one, no question, that comes down to safety. Jumping on the bed, playing, I don't know what's right. I don't care. That's between you guys. I suspect that the healthiest, most vibrant level of adjustment probably lies somewhere in between. I mean, it does. That's not what's important. What's important is that you guys sit down and come up with a plan that both of you can be excited about. And it has to be negotiated between you because parenting is a partnership. I mean, you realize that.
Yes.
And you've got to have what we call emotional integrity. If you agree, you've got to have the integrity of saying, I'm not going to endear myself to the children by letting them do something special, and then they love me and not him or her. You've got to come up with a plan you can both be excited about. I mean, does that make sense?
It sure does. But the problem one of the reasons that I wanted to be on the show is because the problem that I have is Amy doesn't want to accept, she doesn't want to listen to what I have to say. She's home all day, so it's her way or the highway. And when I say something, well, that's kind of stupid. Why don't you just let him do this every once in a while? Because that's what I said, and well, and I can't come back with, she's been at home.
Let's see.
Well, she's been at home all
Okay,
day.
listen. Did you hear what he just said?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm interrupting you here, and this is like the car seat. I'm doing this for your safety. Right? You hear what he just said? Really, it's like you have 3 children. It's your way you look at it. And you said, I want to come because I know Dr. Phil will agree with me.
No.
Yes, you did.
You're gonna need to transfer it back to me, aren't you?
I will if I need to.
I wanted to see the conflict that it causes between the kids when we're not trying to back each other up.
You said you knew I would agree with you.
I knew on the car seat issue.
You aren't wrong because I don't disagree with you, and I don't disagree with you. Jumping on the bed with the kids, personally, I think it's great. I mean, personally, but whether that's right for your house, and it depends on the time. If it's when you're trying to get them to calm down for bed, bad time. I mean, what you want to do is scale down. But what you want is a rhythm to your home. I talk about that in Family First, where everybody's flowing in this unified rhythm. I don't know whether one of you or the other is right. What I know is he's not your child, and the fact that he's gone does not make him a bad dad. He has a job.
Oh, I don't think that makes him a bad dad. I think he's a great dad.
Of course, but you can't then say, well, you weren't here today, so I made the rules while you were gone, so line up, buddy. Yeah, that won't work. That won't work. You guys need to agree on something, and then you need to do it. And there are some things that you just have to agree to disagree on. He is going to roughhouse and tumble with those children more than you will ever do.
Oh, yeah.
She is going to teach these young girls to become ladies and to, be feminine, and that's great. That's why it's great that there's a mom and a dad here. It isn't important which one of you adopts certain, you adopt, jump on the bed or don't. Do they get a cookie or don't they? Do they watch 30 minutes of TV or an hour of TV? These are things that people negotiate and come up with.
But how do you agree to disagree and not have an attitude about it later?
First off, you really do have an attitude that you're running the house and he needs to get in line. Okay, you've admitted that.
Yeah.
Okay, and to a degree, that's true. She is there all day. She is having to set this up and navigate all that. And so to the extent possible, you need to be supportive of that. All right. On the other hand, you need to recognize that it's not your way or the highway. And you need to come up with some compromises. The way I've always tried to think about this is, if it's a 10 on your priority scale and a 3 on yours on a certain item, then let her have that one. If it's a 10 on his and a 6 on yours, let him have that one. Try to come up with some middle ground. There are a couple of goals you need to have. And one is that you socialize your children, and the other is that they find who they really are. I mean, those are kind of your North Stars in raising kids. How you get there and where those boundaries are here or here really is not that important. He has a fun-loving relationship with the girls. That's who he is. He likes that. You'll be willing to give a little on that. And don't throw her under the bus by saying, well, mommy's not going to let us do that. Y'all need to come together. You can lighten up a little bit, right?
Oh, sure.
I mean, because you're hearing what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That really, you want to pick your battles here. And whether they jump on the bed or run through the house may not be the battle to pick. Maybe you want to give a little on that and then pick the battle on how much TV versus book reading they're doing.
So,
I mean, you've got to
you
pick
give
your
me
battles.
permission to pick those.
Everything can't, I don't want to mess with you at all. Everything can't be the battle. I mean,
Right.
you've got to be, this is a partnership. If you wanted to be a single mom, then you'd have a completely different world. You need to let his personality come into this a little bit. I mean, cut the boy some slack. All right, next, a stay-at-home dad who's worried his sons, his personality come into this a little bit. I mean, cut the boy some slack.
Cut the boy some slack. So there, Malvin. Got that bars. I'm like, okay. There, slack cut off, you son of a bitch. That's cut yourself some slack, you son of a bitch. Now you gonna put the fucking car seat in there. There, cut you some slack, you little son of a bitch. Now I'm gonna get you to get the car seat, put those little fuckers in the car seat, and I'm gonna bring down your pimp down the bill and the mama mobile. No lap, no nothing. Safety comes first. I tell you what. Oh my God. Yeah, throughout this season, family first. Every issue in the book from parenting. Because let me tell you something, parenting is all about rhythm. It's not about picking the battle. It's like, who do you go to? Mom versus dad. I mean, everyone knows that no is the answer. I mean, I would show you a Super Nintendo clip, but then I'm going to get demonetized. What you have to understand here, family is all about rhythm. And soon we're going to have a very special all about, could your child be a serial killer? Could you raise your child's IQ? How many, even potty training for one day? Sure, you may sit there and say that's not going to work somehow. But it could work for your child. And that's why this season we're going to dedicate family first. Because really, family needs to be put first. Like education comes first, so does family. And I might get Dr. Phil's Family First. Read all about it, read you some passages, and maybe then, it'll be great. And every issue to broadcast. we would talk about it. Like, you know, we talked about spanking, how it confuses the child. Like, you're supposed to love me. This is that and the third. And, you know, it's not cutting down some slack. I mean, other people would find spanking me abusive. Like, you know, the Hillary Adams case. If you're unfamiliar with it, it was a horrific video to where the judge slapped his daughter with a belt, going all, bend over the bed, bend over the bed. Then mom joining in. It was all on the talk show circuit. It was on Dr. Phil. It was on the Today Show. And it was just horrific to watch. But how do you discipline your kids? That's what Family First is going to be all about for Give Me a Break. You know, we're going to put family first. Because here at Give Me a Break, we put education first. We're also going to put family first. Without families, there would be no harmony. There would be no rhythm. And if you don't have that rhythm put in place, you're not going to have one happy family. You're going to be a family divided, where you have a single father and a single mother. It's like, who do you turn to for guidance? You're the guidance. As a parents, you're the guidance. And me as an uncle, I want to be, you know, the fun uncle. Not the, you know, like the whole disciplinarian uncle, like Uncle Charlie from 2.5 Men. What I want to be is someone to be like a mentor. And, you know, if I wanted my nephew to be a mentor, he's 1 year old. He's a year old today. And if I really want him to be my mentor, okay. But it's his choice to decide. So, here's the bottom line. We have to put family first. That's give me a break for this Monday. We'll see you again. That's give me a break for this Monday. For Officer YouTube. I'll see you on Wednesday.